I really saw that if I do more research, maybe I would add a milestone, or I would add a contribution in this fight of malaria, because I believe if it happened recently in Sri Lanka and even other countries where people don't even know that malaria exists anymore, it could also happen here in Uganda one time. Yeah.
The interesting thing is that when I began working in malaria 15 years ago, about 1 million children were dying from malaria every year. And the opportunity to engage in a project to develop a malaria vaccine was something I could not walk away from.
I never specialized in malaria, but malaria was always the major public health problems in the countries I worked. And so with all the limited resources, be it as a scientist as well as a public health specialist, you have to concentrate on the biggest burden.
When I went to one of our villages where my relatives come from, and they had so many children, so I asked them, but why do you have so many children when they're encouraging us to have family planning so you can afford your children better? And they said, well, you need a lot of children because some are going to die. And yeah, I thought someone has to do something about it.
During my time in Kenya, the kids from the village would always accompany me into the bush when I try and collect tsetse. Towards the end of my stay, I noticed some of the kids were missing. And so that evening we diverted and we went to the village to look for them, and they had passed away. I didn't really realize what impact that had. I went back to the university in the United States, and a very generous man had reached out to me, and he asked me to come down to his lab and to do a PhD on anything. And he said, what do you want to do? And I go, how about malaria? And he goes, why malaria? And I never told him about that story about the children. I just said, because it's hard.
In my village, there are many people suffering from epidemic malaria. And so I find it so difficult. So I'm trying to get ways of eliminating it.
In 1996, on the average, a person used to get 3 to 5 attacks of malaria. By 2011, there was a drastic reduction in number of cases. And then suddenly it dawned to us, elimination is possible.
I think the one big lesson is complacency. We must always remember that this is a constant fight. It's survival of the fittest, that we always have to be trying to be ahead of the game because the parasite wants to live, so do we.
We have to learn the chloroquine resistance story, because in 1960, the massive administration of chloroquine reduces total mortality less than 1/10, but the emerging of a chloroquine-resistant parasite canceled all of the chloroquine power.
We in the past didn't design interventions thinking of evidence, and I think now we should really be based on science and evidence when we design the interventions and the malaria elimination activities that we will be doing.
The first global malaria eradication program was started in 1950. And it failed because they did not have any tool which could evaluate the impact of the program. So surveillance is the thing we should implement in the upcoming programs.
The history of Sri Lanka itself. We brought down the number of cases of malaria to 17 in 1963. But the world of euphoria was short-lived, and malaria reappeared with vengeance in 1967. So countries that are going in for elimination should have a proper strategy and a vision to prevent reintroduction of malaria.
I think the main lesson is keep going, don't let up. Even if you get down to really low levels of transmission, keep everything in place, keep vigilant.
So the lesson from polio and the lesson from smallpox is don't give up your research base. Know that you will face problems, and particularly in malaria, that there's not a single silver bullet. We have to tie the various solutions that we have into a rational strategy, and we have to be very judicious in how we use them.
We need to learn from history that if we depend too much on just a very limited number of tools, we're likely to run into problems. The parasite is a very clever parasite. It will develop resistance to malaria drugs. The mosquitoes will develop resistance to insecticides.
I think the greatest successes in terms of hopefully eliminating or eradicating disease comes from the best integration of the toolkit, the best integration of disciplines, and I think history tells us that to not ignore certain segments, that we need everybody to solve the problem.
We shouldn't work in isolation. The vector people or the entomologists shouldn't work alone. There should be a more integrated approach.
Learning from one another and being able to pull together with a genuine commitment to be able to meet the goal.
Putting together really thoughtful, smart combinations of drugs that target a particular locus, but actually uses evolution to push the parasites to a form that then maybe is more susceptible to the partner drug, I think is opening up a potential for real opportunities for either delaying or offsetting drug resistance.
It was in the news that there was this pill, I think it was developed by MIT, that if you swallow it, I think it opens inside your stomach and stays around for weeks. And I think that is like a fantastic new innovation, because we could coat it with drugs like ivermectin that is killing mosquitoes when they feed on you.
I think ivermectin potentially is going to have a real impact on malaria. Some of the new data coming out of Kenya showing the longevity of the intervention means that we might have a new vector control tool which doesn't have any of the same mode of action of what we're already using, so it can just be a really useful complementary tool.
The Uber taxis, right? You press the button and you see all the taxis around you. So same way, it would be so nice to have an app. You press a button and you see all your malaria cases.
The smartphone or the cell phone, because almost everyone has a cell phone. And I think it can be used for real-time surveillance, informing the areas where we have malaria foci, and not just informing on the presence of malaria foci, but also the response.
The CRISPR technology is definitely something right now that has a lot of promise, and having worked with it myself, it's actually something that does work in the parasite, and I think it has great potential to help accelerate a lot of different fields in the malaria.
I do hope that we have at least a new anti-liver stage drug, especially for Vivax.
The sporozoid-based vaccine for preventing reintroduction of malaria after doing MDA. I think it's very interesting and awesome.
I really think a long-lasting vaccine is probably the only way we're really going to see eradication of malaria in our lifetimes.
We will need to combine tools. As we have vaccine, we also need efficient and effective vector control tools. And if we have those, I'm sure we'll be successful, but it won't be easy.
To me, actually the most important thing is to engage the next generation.
There's important thing if you want to be a scientist, it's not the concern, then you discover nothing. It's the joy to discover, the curiosity.
We really need to remember that the people that you're reaching out to, that you're trying to help, matter as well. We need to educate everybody and keep them on board.
I really want to see a greater political commitment, and through this political commitment I think we could succeed having a very much faster steps to elimination.
I believe that in order for us to eliminate the disease, we have to have the change of attitude right from the people implementing, working on the ground, and even with the researchers.
The people should see that, first of all, tackling a problem like malaria, we sit in one boat, and not in many boats that are floating somewhere in the river.
Science is not an individual group or an individual country. It's a global process where there are no borders and everyone is working together to achieve the same goals.
And eventually a moment comes when different pieces of a puzzle come together and all make sense.
Malaria can be eliminated.
I do believe that
we can do this, and we will do.
If you've really chosen a worthy goal, you will commit your life to it.